Shin Megami Tensei is a series with a lot of history under its belt. Ever since the early 90s, SMT has been known for its dark writing with hints of comedy, huge roster of mythological figures from all over, and plenty of sub-series, like Devil Summoner, Digital Devil Saga, and most famously Persona. But that doesn't mean the mainline series hasn't been going strong, because it most certainly has, with the 2021 release of SMT V, which I and many others are very excited for. But back in 2009, Atlus released another sort of mainline entry into the series, with Shin Megami Tensei Strange Journey for the Nintendo DS. The game had a very positive reception and left behind a legacy that still persists throughout the Megaten series and community to this day. Strange Journey has gained a reputation for being the hardest Megaten in the series, and the one that you shouldn't even consider starting with if you're new to the series. The challenge of the game mainly stems from the dungeon design and the enemy encounters, which I want to talk about today. Now, despite being the hardest in the series, I ended up enjoying it, and especially its combat most of all, because Strange Journey's combat works due to your choices and approaches to the many encounters. But before that, a disclaimer. First, I've only played Strange Journey once, finishing it a few months ago with the neutral ending. I haven't done any of the other endings yet. Second, a very important thing that I must mention is that I've only played Strange Journey Redux, which was the re-release Atlus made for the 3DS back in 2018, which made a lot of controversial changes to the many aspects of the game, but most relevantly the challenge, with Atlus adding a lot of quality of life features that arguably make the game easier. Despite all of that, I still feel as if what I talk about will still apply to the original Strange Journey. Oh, and lastly, this isn't really a traditional type of review. I'm not going to go over the story and evaluate it or give my thoughts on the music. This video is more so a look into the combat of Strange Journey and why I love it. Having that out of the way, it's necessary that I explain the combat of Strange Journey, which applies to both versions of the game for the most part. Strange Journey's combat is turn-based and takes place in a first-person view most comparable to the older SMT games in the Etrian Odyssey series. In combat, you control yourself along 3 other demons from your stock, which you control to fight with you through the many encounters. Encounters are usually fought by exploiting the weakness of your opponent. Normally in the other SMT games, you'd gain extra turns, but in Strange Journey, you do something that's comparable to the all-out attacks in the Persona games, called the Demon Co-op system. By having one of your demons exploit a particular enemy's weakness, you and your other demons will all attack that demon for massive damage, but this will only happen if you and your other demons follow the same alignment as the demon that exploited the enemy's weakness. This leads me into my first point about team composition. In most other RPGs, Megaten included, how you decide to set up your team is vital to whether or not you'll be able to get through the many encounters. Many factors influence how you set up your team, and a poorly composed team can lead to a game over. Strange Journey does something that I've never really seen since. It makes you take into consideration how you set up your team more than ever. As I mentioned, Strange Journey uses the Demon Co-op system, in which a particular demon exploits the enemy's weakness. All other party members attack that specific enemy, given that there are other demons in your current party that follow the alignment of the attacking demon. Like most other Megaten games, how your demons react to move types and their movesets are vital to winning in Strange Journey. But unlike other Megaten games, you now have to consider what alignment you and your demons follow. In Strange Journey, there are 3 alignments that the protagonist and demons follow: Law, Neutral, and Chaos. Depending on what the alignment the protagonist follows later in the game, they'll be locked into one of 3 endings that correspond to the aforementioned alignments. Because of this, a lot of players tend to stick with one alignment throughout a playthrough to get their desired ending. This somewhat minor detail has a huge impact on how battles play out and what demons are chosen in Strange Journey. To give an example for clarity, let's say you're trying to do the Chaos route and pick solely Chaos-based answers and dialogue. This means that your character will be Chaos aligned. Because of the player's alignment, battles will play out more smoothly if the player decides to pick Chaos aligned demons, because 1, they'll have an easier time recruiting them, and 2, you'll be able to deal way more damage than you would with Law or Neutral aligned demons thanks to the Demon Co-op system. And the same is true for the other alignments. If one is Law or Neutral, they'll have an easier time recruiting demons of that type and will be able to deal more damage with them. When a player decides to replay the game on a completely different route, they'll start to use different demons and come up with completely different strategies that wouldn't have worked due to their and their previously chosen demons' alignment. Because of this, the way that you compose your team for fights, especially the bosses, is never the same in a playthrough of Strange Journey. Each time you try one of the 3 routes in Strange Journey, you'll have to come up with new strategies and choose new demons to take down the same foe. But now, I'd really like to talk more about the boss fights in Strange Journey, which kick your teeth in and poo in your toilet and don't flush. Boss fights in Strange Journey are extremely difficult, and like any other game, you have to know not only the ins and outs of them, but also what your moves and options are and come up with a strategy to take them down, and it's because of that the bosses in Strange Journey are really satisfying. I'd like to start by talking about one of Strange Journey's most infamous boss fights, and that is the Oro Boris boss fight. About halfway into the game in Sector E, you have to fight Oro Boris as a boss, and it's really hard. He's only weak to fire, but resists so many things, like physical moves, gun moves, drains electric magic, and is null to light and dark spells. Oh, and he also recovers his health each turn, so you have to constantly put out more damage than he recovers. Lastly, and most annoyingly, is this move that Oro Boris has called Disaster Cycle. What it does is that it deals almighty damage, which is a type of move that cannot be resisted by any demon in the game, but the attack also has a high chance to inflict random status ailments on the player and his party. In the 3DS re-release of Strange Journey, the protagonist is given these special abilities called the Commander Skills, and one of them has the ability to protect the protagonist and his entire party from any status ailment for 3 turns, with a cooldown time to compensate, making it a great tool for fighting Oro Boris. What this fight does is that it not only makes sure that the player has a well-composed team to fight Oro Boris, but also knows when to use their skills wisely. To go on a bit of a tangent here, here's where I think the Redux version of Strange Journey succeeds over the original. The commander skills all add a new layer of strategy to fights, but they don't exactly make any of the fights easier, they just give you more options to work with. Strange Journey does a really good job at being able to make each boss fight unique even on a repeat playthrough, which once again ties back into the point I had made about team composition earlier, and because of that, the fights are rewarding both extrinsically and intrinsically. In conclusion, Strange Journey is not only one of the most difficult and painful Megaten games, it's one of the best, and it has a wholly unique layer of strategy by being able to give the player many options and ways to approach battles. This is why, even after over 11 years of Strange Journey, it has been talked about within the community and has been able to continue balling ever since.